We are kicking things off right now with a massive shakeup in the NBA. Joel Embiid was furious about the Sixers' decision to trade Jared McCain, and the locker room felt the same way. We dive into why this trade move has ignited a firestorm and what it means for the future of the franchise.
Tired of dropping your phone or struggling to hold it with one hand? The PopSocket's Pop Grip gives you a secure grip, works as a phone stand, and even lets you swap the top for a fresh new look. Simple, useful, and perfect for everyday phone use. Click the link in the comments to grab yours on Amazon.
Next up, we look at a controversial perspective on how superstars handle the spotlight. Nick Wright is calling for an end to athletes bringing their children to press conferences after playoff losses, sparking a huge debate about family, media, and player focus. Now, we uncover the deeper crisis brewing within the Philadelphia 76ers. The front office's cost-cutting measures, specifically the trade of Jared McCain, have created a serious rift with Joel Embiid, putting the entire franchise on the brink of a major internal breakdown. And finally, we hear directly from the MVP himself. Joel Embiid is expressing his confidence about his knee and demanding that the entire Sixers organization, ownership, front office, players, and coaches, gets better because the time for excuses is over. Stay with us for the full breakdown. A report from The Athletic has ignited widespread discussion regarding internal dissatisfaction within the Philadelphia 76ers, specifically centering on the trade of guard Jared McCain at the deadline. Tony Jones' report claims that star center Joel Embiid, along with other players in the locker room, was unhappy with the Sixers' decision to move McCain to the Oklahoma City Thunder, a sentiment that is being amplified across NBA media. This report is framed not as breaking news, but as confirmation of long-standing frustrations. The content highlights a perceived disconnect between Embiid and the front office, citing Embiid's prior requests not to sell assets to duck the luxury tax, which the organization allegedly ignored. The trade, which sent McCain to OKC for future picks, is presented as a decision that disappointed the star player and the team. The analysis points to systemic issues within the Sixers' management philosophy. The article argues that the team traded a promising young guard without securing a replacement, further depleting the bench depth. This lack of depth was highlighted by the fact that only Quentin Grimes was available off the bench during the playoffs, leading to significant strain on players like Maxey and Edgecombe. The narrative suggests that general manager Daryl Morey operates with a transactional mindset, treating players as assets to be optimized for short-term gains rather than investing in the current roster. The trade of McCain is cited as an example of this approach, coupled with Morey's public comments about selling high on the asset. The piece concludes that this pattern, selling assets, neglecting depth, and prioritizing short-term financial maneuvering over team building, is eroding trust between the front office and the players. The report suggests that the deterioration of the relationship between Embiid and the front office, largely attributed to Morey's operational style, is the core issue. Furthermore, sources indicate that the jobs of Daryl Morey and head coach Nick Nurse are expected to be evaluated entering the offseason. Nick Wright has called for a ban on athletes bringing their children to press conferences following playoff losses, arguing that it shields stars from difficult questions. The commentary followed Joel Embiid's inclusion of his son, Arthur, during the post-game press conference after the Philadelphia 76ers Game 4 home loss to the New York Knicks. Media speculation suggested Embiid brought his son to avoid reporters, citing the team's poor performance and internal discontent. On FS1's First Things First, Nick Wright asserted that allowing children at these events after a loss should be prohibited. Wright stated, "Bringing children to press conferences after losses should not be allowed. The ultimate effect is your kid is shielding you from what could tough or uncomfortable questions. That is the point of those press conferences." While Wright acknowledged support for the NBA's positive portrayal of fatherhood, he drew a distinction between post-loss appearances and those following victories, noting that stars like Steph Curry and Jason Tatum have appeared with their children after wins. Wright expressed a preference for the modern NBA star's embrace of family values, but stressed that during season-ending losses, a player should not have their child present while discussing their future with the team. Wright suggested that having a child in the center of the interaction can impede a player's ability to provide clear answers to fans, especially since these conferences are often the primary opportunity for reporters to engage with players before the offseason begins. He noted that these sessions are typically limited to 15 minutes, implying a need for focus on the critical questions posed. The Philadelphia 76ers are facing an internal crisis centered on superstar Joel Embiid, a situation that the organization fears most. Although the team has been eliminated from the playoffs, off-season decisions are already signaling brewing tension behind the scenes. According to reporting by The Athletic's Tony Jones, Embiid has reportedly been at odds with the team's coaching staff and front office. This discord appears to stem from the front office's decision to cut costs before the trade deadline, despite pleas from those advocating for a different course of action. Furthermore, the divisive trade of Jared McCain has reportedly left a negative impression on the superstar big man. Embiid remains the face of the franchise and the team's ceiling, but his contract situation is precarious, leaving the 76ers with little choice but to prioritize his satisfaction in Philadelphia. The front office is now engaged in a difficult war of attrition. Because Embiid is under one of the league's most restrictive contracts, other teams are unlikely to aggressively pursue a trade for his services, suggesting he is set to remain with the franchise unless drastic measures are taken. Embiid has expressed loyalty, acknowledging the team's success in outperforming expectations while remaining healthy. However, this commitment does not excuse perceived failures from the front office and coaching staff. The report warns that any loss of rapport between the former MVP and the team's leadership could lead to the team's decline. The 76ers must prove that their current actions are not a reflection of a deeper, more damaging rift with Embiid, as patience is wearing thin. Joel Embiid expressed strong confidence regarding his knee following the Philadelphia 76ers sweep in the Eastern Conference semifinals by the New York Knicks. Speaking after the loss in Game 4, Embiid stated, "I'm as confident as I've ever been. I think, obviously, my knee was the biggest concern, and I'm not thinking about it. And as long as we keep doing what we've been doing, I won't have to think about it anymore." He shifted focus to the future, emphasizing availability for next season. "I'm looking at next year, obviously being more available. The personal goals, it doesn't matter. I know that if I'm available and I play as much as possible, everything else is going to follow." Sixers head coach Nick Nurse commended Embiid's effort throughout the playoffs, acknowledging the physical toll. Nurse remarked, "All I can say is I commend him. He worked his ass off to get out there and play. I think it was really difficult for him, especially in Game 3. I think he felt a little better today than he did in Game 3. But again, I'd just say he gave us everything he could." Looking ahead, Embiid stressed that the team, organization-wide, must improve. He reflected on the loss by stating, "I'm proud of this group. I feel like we play hard, we tried, as we have done all season, and at times it's okay to say that the other team was just better. Tonight, the Knicks made every shot, they made every single play. We didn't make shots." Embiid concluded with a call for collective improvement. "We just got to get better from top to bottom." Ownership, front office, players, coaches, everybody just got to get better.